This is our Metro Council Planning and Zoning Committee meeting. Today is Wednesday, July the 5th. I'll do a quick run through the roll. In addition to myself, we have Councilmember Murphy, Councilmember Parker, Vice Chair Rutherford, Councilmember Van Rees is in the room, and Councilmember Welsh is here, so that gives us a quorum of 6, and I'll mark any other Councilmember Sepulveda is here. That brings us up to 7. I'll mark any others present as they arrive. 8. Oh, Toombs. Yeah, 8. Councilmember Toombs is here, so that's 8. Sorry about that. So I'm going to go through items number 1 and 2, which pertain to MDHA activities, are not on consent because for a number of reasons, but one of those is that they have amendments. But all other items that I have on our agenda, number 9 is not, by Councilmember Young. So the ones that I have on consent are items number 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Right off the top of your heads, does any of those items need to come off of consent? All right, then I'll go ahead and start reading those captions. And please bear with me, I'm a little hoarse today. Item number 3 under resolutions, Resolution RS 2023-2292. The sponsors are Councilmembers Roten and Withers. This approves an intergovernmental license agreement between Metro government and the United States of America, acting by and through the Department of Defense to enter certain property located at 1414 County Hospital Road, owned by the Metro government for limited military training purposes. Councilmember Gamble's here. That was item number 3. Moving on to item number 4, Resolution RS 2023-2293. The sponsors are Councilmembers Roten and Withers, declares surplus and authorizes the conveyance of real property to New Level Community Development Corporation, and approving the First Amendment to a grant contract for constructing affordable housing approved by Resolution RS 2022-1857 between Metro government acting by and through the Metropolitan Housing Trust Fund Commission under New Level Community Development Corporation. Item number 5, Resolution RS 2023-2301. The sponsors of Councilmembers Toombs, Taylor, Roten, and others, approves an intergovernmental agreement by and between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation, or TDOT, and Metro government acting by and through NDOT for the repair of existing pavement failures and resurfacing of 0.830 miles of Clarksville Pike, Dr. D.B. Todd Boulevard. Item number 6, Resolution RS 2023-2303. The sponsor to Councilmembers Welsh, Johnston, Roten, and others, approves Amendment 2 to an intergovernmental agreement by and between the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation, or TDOT, and Metro government acting through NDOT for intersection improvements on Nolensville Pike from McNally Drive to Natchez Court. Item number 7, Resolution RS 2023-2306. The sponsors are Councilmembers Sledge, Withers, and Pulley, amends ordinance number BL 2021-1020 to authorize this Metro government and Davidson County to modify the abandonment and acceptance of public water mains, fire hydrant assemblies, and easements for property located at 1201 Hillside Avenue, also known as Reservoir Zone 4A. Moving on to bills on second reading, item number 8, ordinance number BL 2023-1991. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers, Murphy, Bradford, and others, adds a new section 2.128.070 to the Metro Code of Laws, establishing the Office of County Historian, the appointment process and necessary credentials, as well as the county historian's duties and appointments within the metropolitan government of Nashville and Davidson County. Item number 9 is not on consent. We'll move on to number 10, ordinance number BL 2023-1997. The sponsors are Councilmembers Roten, Withers, and Pulley. This authorizes the acquisition of certain rights-of-way easements and property rights by negotiation or condemnation for use by the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County, acting by and through NDOT in connection with the public project described as the Estes Road at Hobbs Road intersection improvements, NDOT project number 2023-R1. Item number 11, ordinance number BL 2023-1998. The sponsors of Councilmembers Withers, Pulley, and Hager authorizes Metro government to accept new public sanitary sewer main and sanitary sewer manhole for 6 properties located at Wood Street, also known as Wood Street Public Sanitary Sewer Extension. Item number 12, ordinance BL 2023-1999. The sponsors of Councilmembers Welsh, Withers, and Pulley authorizes Metro government to accept the relocation of an existing public fire hydrant assembly for property located at 2918B Harlan Drive, also known as Harlan, Harlin Townhomes. Item number 13, ordinance BL 2023-2000. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers and Pulley authorizes Metro government to accept a new public sanitary sewer manhole for property located at 1010 4th Avenue North. Item number 14, ordinance BL 2023-2001. The sponsors are Councilmembers Johnston, Withers, and Pulley authorizes Metro government to accept a new public water main and fire hydrant assembly for property located at 3777 Knowlesville Pike, also known as the Nashville Zoo. Item number 15, ordinance BL 2023-2002. The sponsors are Councilmembers Withers and Pulley authorizes Metro government to accept a new sanitary sewer manhole and easement for 2 properties located at 1036 and 1042 East Trinity Lane, also known as Trinity and Dozier. And finally, item number 16, ordinance number BL 2023-2003. The sponsors are Councilmembers Pulley and Withers authorizes Metro government to abandon existing sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manhole and easements, and to accept new public sanitary sewer main, sanitary manhole and easements for 2 properties located at 4310 and 4311 Castleman Court. Did I need to ask if there was anyone to speak at public hearing, or didn't? Forgot about that. Do I need to ask if anyone there was public hearing? We'll skip it for now. Okay. Okay. Do any of those items that I just read need to come off of consent for any reason? If not, if I can call on Vice Chair Rutherford for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so we approve the consent calendar by 9-0. One moment, please. It's been decided for these. Okay, should I go to Councilmember Young's item first, or? Go ahead. All right. So the next few items probably will have some discussion, so I encourage everyone to pay attention if you can. Go ahead and mark that while folks finish up their conversations. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the rest of our calendar. Like I said, all the 3 remaining items on our agenda are likely to have some discussion, and we know that we definitely have some amendments. So I'll begin with the first one, which is item number 1, ordinance BL 2023-1891. The sponsors of this are Council Members Mendez, Roten, Withers, and Allen. This is an ordinance approving amendment number 6 to the Arts Center redevelopment plan, amendment number 1 to the Bordeaux redevelopment plan, amendment number 1 to the Casey Place redevelopment plan, amendment number 1 to the Central State redevelopment plan, amendment number 2 to the Jefferson Street redevelopment plan, amendment number 6 to the Phillips Jackson redevelopment plan, amendment number 8 to the Rutledge Hill redevelopment plan, and amendment number 1 to the Skyline redevelopment plan. And we do have several amendments to this. this. There's 2 amendments by Councilmember Mendez and 2 as well by Councilmember Parker. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you bring a motion on this item just to get it before us?
Motion on the bill.
And then is there a second? All right. Thank you. So we at least have that before us. Councilmember Mendez, I'll go ahead and recognize you to go ahead and talk us through the amendment and what you might like to do with some of the amendments, or the bill and what you might like to do with some of the amendments.
Thanks, Chair. And if you'll allow me just a couple minutes of context. So last term, this council passed 4 or 5 or 6 what I call tax increment financing reform bills. They were all unanimously passed. Toward the end of the term, we had a tax increment financing study group that was appointed. It had affordable housing advocates like Paulette Coleman and Charles Barber Bone and Bert Matthews, a lawyer who had documented TIF deals, and the idea, and Talia Lomax O'Neill, the finance director, somebody from the mayor's office, Brian Kelsey, and the idea was to hit every perspective related to TIF and get some agreed upon suggestions. And then in the last 2 months of the term, this council passed all the suggestions. One of the suggestions was that the council should periodically find out whether it can reach an agreement with MDHA about what the uses of TIF would be in each district. And that's very different than how it's been in the past, because typically a redevelopment district would be created and then the council wouldn't have anything to say about the uses in the district for a 30-year or more period. And so injecting an every 8 or 10-year check-in with the council and MDHA would allow uses to be customized by district. And the TIF study group agreed, all of us, that some districts, like the Arts District or the Gulches, maybe there shouldn't be any more TIF or any purpose there, whereas on Jefferson Street or Bordeaux or Skyline, definitely want to do more TIF in those districts. And the uses would be then customized. And the 2019 legislation set a deadline of last summer, so it gave 3 full years to June 30, 2022, to figure out what the new agreement was for TIF in the districts. And COVID, flood, tornado, derecho, blah, it didn't happen. And I don't think that's anybody's fault, but it didn't happen. And the way the legislation was written in 2019, if the agreement wasn't reached, TIF got turned off in the districts. There aren't any TIF loans pending. This doesn't include the East Bank. That one was never included in anything we did, so we're not talking about that. But 8 other redevelopment districts, MDHA has started the conversation through this legislation about what's the deal going to be on agreeing on what the uses of TIF are in different districts. So that's the background. This, again, because of football stadium budget, MDHA and I didn't have a long opportunity to talk about this before it was filed. We were going to take care of it if we could before the end of the term. And so I've had some conversations with Mr. Kane from MDHA, and I think as far as a committee recommendation, we can go through the amendments if the committee likes, but I think my suggestion is going to be we've got time for one deferral before, and still get it done before the end of the term if we can find common ground. And if we can't find common ground because we ran out of time, that's nobody's fault because of all the things that have gone on, and it can get picked up at the beginning of the next term. So that's the background, and I would. My suggestion would be I'm happy to talk about any of the amendments if the committee would like to in particular. My suggestion is going to be that for this, that the committee recommendation be to defer to the second meeting in July. And when we come back tomorrow, it might be that I ask to continue to defer the public hearing entirely to August 1st, but we're going to have some discussions tomorrow about that. So that's, I know a little rambling, but that's where it's at.
I think that's helpful. Does the council legal director have anything to add to at this time? Because I know that you've been corresponding about it during the day, but okay. Okay. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Chair. So yeah, I have a couple of amendments in the packet. I mean, it sounds like with the legislation's lead sponsor requesting a deferral, I mean, I'm comfortable with that, especially if there is a pathway to kind of getting agreement between MDHA and this body and being able to get this done this term. That sounds like a best case scenario. And so with that, I guess I'm comfortable moving the one meeting deferral with kind of the expectation for committee members as well as the general body that may get, it sounds like it may get stretched to push the public hearing out to the first meeting in August as well, just so the public's aware of that. I think, you know, to the sponsor, if there's any way that we could maybe know by the end of today whether that public hearing will be held on tomorrow evening or at the first meeting in August, I think it would be helpful for the general public who might be seeking an opportunity to weigh in to know the answer to that.
If I can ask the legal director, is it an option to hear from the public tomorrow and at the end either keep the to have more public hearing on August 1st? Is that an option?
It only requires the single public, state law only requires a single public hearing. I think that you could have another public hearing on the first, considering that there would be an amendment. So I think I've shared some information with some of the sponsors earlier that it's probably best to defer the public hearing to, if we're going to amend, it's best to put amendments on, defer to the meeting on the 1st to allow subsequent notice to go out to the public so that the public is being notified of the content before them, which would be a bill with amendments as opposed to a bill without amendments.
All right, my apologies for not seeing that before we started.
Sorry, I believe something else.
I mean, with that, then the likelihood of deferring the, well, I guess this is the point of committee. So we've got amendments that are slightly inconsistent in a couple of the terminology. And if we just add all the amendments tomorrow, would that be good enough? And then do a cleanup to get them?
It would be better to have too many amendments already on and then pull them off and then amend it later to pull them off than to be adding amendments after the public has been notified.
Then I guess, Chair, my revised request would be a recommendation for each of the amendments, and then on the bill as amended to recommend deferring the public hearing to August 1st.
Okay. Anything else from Councilmember Parker at this time?
I believe I'll want to withdraw the motion I made of the one meeting deferral so that we can consider the 4 amendments.
Okay. And Mr. Kane is here from MDHA. Would welcome an opportunity for him to share some insights with the committee.
Thank you. Joe Kane, Director of Urban Development at MDHA. The public hearing has been advertised. State statute is fairly direct on that, and it needs 3 weeks worth of printed notice as well as direct mail notice, and has been noticed for tomorrow. And so I'm not sure how the procedure would go. I'm not an attorney. I'm not sure how the procedure would go to do that. And I don't know if we want to have the public hearing. And then I understand this is treated as a normal zoning bill, and you can amend it on 3rd reading and have that public hearing. But it has been noticed. We have sent notice to every property owner in each redevelopment district, as well as printed in the Tennessean for 3 consecutive weeks. And I'll defer to Ms. Darby. She has an opinion as to whether we can how we defer a public hearing.
Well, I think it can be deferred. My recommendation would be to move the amendments and then defer the public hearing, but notice will have to go back out to all of those. It'll have to be published for at least 3 weeks. I'm assuming if notice was mailed to everybody, it would have to go out and be mailed again as well. So it's a notice, and I think it's a notice issue. If we have the public hearing tomorrow, but the amendments that substantively change the legislation, then that's a notice issue for the person who was not interested in coming to the public hearing tomorrow, absent, an amendment that's going on that could change it to, for some reason, why they want to speak. So.
I don't know. I'm concerned with the ads going back into Tennessee because it typically takes a week's worth of notice to put that in there, and we would have a text change. But if you feel comfortable about it from your end that it will work, we will certainly be glad to attempt that.
I don't know what their deadline is.
It typically takes a week, so okay. We probably won't get an ad in next week. We may be able to squeeze one in by next Friday. We'll just have to check and see.
I would need to check on that. I don't know what the deadline is.
I'll call in Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks, Chair. My suggestion to Mr. Kane and I guess the committee would be for the committee meeting, I think the option that has the most expansive options is to recommend all the amendments, recommend deferral of the public hearing till August 1st. That's just a recommendation. The council can do whatever it wants tomorrow. And Ms. Darby, Mr. Kane, and I have a meeting that we just scheduled for 11 o'clock tomorrow. And if it turns out that it's impossible to practically get notice out, and that means we just don't have agreement. There, as far as I know, there are no pending TIF loans interested. Mr. Kane just shared that with me a few minutes ago. There's general interest in the market, but there's no proposal on the table right now. All the time issues get solved by doing it in October. So I think for now, the most expansive set of options for this committee is recommend the 4 amendments and then either recommend deferral till August 1 or whatever else the committee would like to do. And then we can have more discussion between now and tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And Councilmember Parker, as one of the sponsors of some of the amendments, do you have any thoughts?
So I think that it makes sense to me to go ahead and get recommendations because we're not actually applying them here. We're just having deliberation and making recommendations. So, Chair, if you want to, I don't know if other people are in the queue, but if you want to move through the 4 or how do you want to handle it?
Are there other members that wish to speak on this item of the committee? Would you mind, since you're on the committee, would you mind moving in that case amendment number 1, and then I'll call on Councilmember Mendez.
I'll move amendment number 1 from Councilmember Mendez.
Do we have a second on amendment number 1? We have a second. Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized to talk us through your amendment.
Sure. Amendment number 1 would specifically say no more TIF loans in the Gulch, which is called the Arts Center Redevelopment District. And going back as far as 2019 with people, again, like the development community represented by Mr. Matthews, lawyers who've worked on it, lawyers who've represented banks for TIF deals, everybody, I think, would seem to agree that there's not a need for more public money to develop the Gulch, and it's not blighted any longer. And so that's what amendment number 1 would do, carve out the Arts Center District.
Okay, any other discussion on amendment 1? We have a motion and proper second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, hearing none, so that's 10 for, 10 against, 0 not voting. Would you move his amendment number 2?
I'll move amendment 2 from Councilmember Mendez.
All right, Councilmember Mendez, you're recognized.
Amendment number 2 would amend 7 other redevelopment plans, and again, not including East Bank, to specifically amend the planned language that describes what TIF loans could be used for. And it would be pretty expansive: affordable housing related infrastructure, transit, greenways, pedestrian ways, infrastructure, and historic preservation. And the idea would be to have the plans specifically say this. There's some conversation I've had in the last half hour that maybe this amendment isn't necessary, but it may be, and would match what we did in 2019.
Okay. Any other discussion on Amendment 2? We have a motion, proper second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We recommend 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. Councilmember Mendez, I'll leave your mic on just in case, but just for efficiency. Councilmember Parker, you're on Amendment 3.
Thank you, Chair. I'll move Amendment 3.
Is there a second? All right. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So just very briefly, the Skyline redevelopment plan outlines permitted and not permitted uses within the two different zones in the plan. And what this amendment does is adds grocery store as a permitted use in both zones. This is just based on community feedback. Trying to get a grocery store to go in on Dickerson has been a priority of ours this whole term. And I just want to make sure that tool remains available if there's a deal that can utilize TIF to do that. So that's what this does.
Okay. And the discussion on Amendment 3. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We recommend 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. And on to number 4.
Thank you, Chair. I will move Amendment 4.
Second?
And
wait a second. Yeah.
Thank you. So similarly to the last one, the permitted and non-permitted uses are spelled out in the plan. What this amendment does is adds short-term rental owner-occupied and short-term rental non-owner-occupied into the prohibited uses column of the two different zones in the plan. We have not seen a ton of utilization of the tax increment financing in the Skyline District. One of the buildings that did utilize it is now either predominantly or entirely short-term rental units. So that's been something that, as a community, we've looked at and said, well, this is not what we want to be utilizing our very limited incentive things that we can do to try to get the kind of development we want. So this amendment is hopefully going to address that.
Okay. Any other discussion on Amendment 4? We have a motion, a proper second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. We recommend 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. Would you like to move the bill as amended?
If with the sponsor's blessing, I'll move a is it a 2-meeting deferral because we're going to August with the public hearing? Sponsor, would you like to let us know what motion you would recommend in this instance?
I would suggest defer the public hearing till August. Defer the public hearing and second reading till August 1.
All right, I'll move to defer the bill with a recommendation of approval of all 4 amendments, as well as the public hearing being deferred to the first meeting in August.
All right, is there a second? We have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? We have approved that. So next we're on same topic, different legislation. This is under Resolution RS, item number 2, Resolution RS 2023-2201. The sponsor to Councilmembers Mendez, Roten, Withers, and Allen. This approves the activities and improvements eligible for tax increment financing in MDHA redevelopment districts. And I will, Councilmember Parker, would you move the bill? And then we'll go to Councilmember Mendez for Amendment 1.
I'll move the resolution, yes.
All right, is there a second? All right, so we have it before us. I'll call on Councilmember Mendez to talk us through the resolution itself and then Amendment number 1.
All right, so right off the bat, what's the difference between the bill and the resolution? The bill amends the actual redevelopment plans, and the resolution is meant to be the required agreement between the council and MDHA about the uses for TIF in each district. This is the requirement of this resolution came into existence in late in the 2019 term. So amendment number 1 does an analogous thing to amendment number 1 on the other one. It specifies that no new TIF loans in the Gulch, which is called the Arts Center Redevelopment District.
Okay, any other discussion on Amendment 1? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? We recommend 10 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. Next, for item number 2, I will call on our dear friend Councilmember Toombs, who is the sponsor and is on our committee. So if you would like to move your amendment and then tell us about it.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the amendment.
Or a second? Okay, go ahead.
So This amendment, and it may need to be tweaked some, so I'm glad this is being deferred. So this is putting in a definition of affordable housing, and I know the redevelopment plans mention affordable housing related infrastructure, and the concern for me particularly is for the Bordeaux community, and I know there is a significant concern in the vast majority of that community about having concentrated poverty, a lot of low-income housing in the area, even though they are wanting attainable housing. And so I was trying to create a definition of what affordable means, so that there isn't that concentration of low-income projects, more so looking at folks who are in that 60 to 120% of AMI range.
Okay. Any other discussion on amendment number 2? And this is just a recommendation, and it sounds like we'll have about another month to keep talking about that, as well as with MDHA. So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Thank you, Councilmember Toombs. We will now go back to our friend Sean Parker.
Thank you, Chair. So I've got amendments 3 and 4. So amendment 3, just very briefly, if I may, without a motion, would add grocery store as a top priority in all the districts, and amendment 4 would add grocery store as a top priority just for the Skyline, the Dickerson redevelopment district. So, we could either, I guess my ask would be to, if the committee would consider making a recommendation for each and just leave both of those as options when we get to the floor. So I'll move amendment 3, which is the one that would add grocery store for all districts, and happy to just go ahead and vote, or I can explain further.
Do we have a second on that? So we have a second. I'll call on Councilmember Allen. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief comment. The tax abatement study and formulating committee has been thinking through some of this in the wider context of all the tax abatements that we offer. And the other activity of childcare has also come up as something that may be difficult, that benefits the community, that may benefit from this treatment. So I just want to get the thought in people's minds, since we are deferring, that maybe when we bring this back, that might be one more activity that we would consider talking about.
Great. I definitely know that we've been talking about adding a grocery store in the Casey master plan for a long time, so you can't state too many times that grocery stores are desired. Any other discussion on amendment number 3? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, and so you're on to number 4, which you've described. Do you have a second on number 4, which is specific to Skyline? We have a second. Any other discussion? Councilman Parker?
I think we can move on.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Would you like to move the bill as amended?
Yes, I will recommend a deferral to the first meeting in August with the recommendations on the amendments attached to that of the resolution.
And this one does not have a public hearing, is that correct, Councilor?
That's correct.
Okay, so just the 2-meeting deferral. All right, we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, sounds like we do have a little bit more work to do next month or so on this, but good discussion so far, and I appreciate Mr. Kane for coming out today and being responsive today, and we'll all be talking a lot more in the coming days and weeks. All righty, so now we are up to our final item for the Planning and Zoning Committee, which is item number 9. And this is ordinance number BL 2023-1992. The sponsor is Councilmember Young. This amends section 2.24-2.24.230 of the Metro Code pertaining to community meetings. And this one has several amendments. I do need a member of the committee. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you mind moving this one, at least to get it before us?
Motion on the bill.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second? All right, so we have a motion and a second. Councilmember Young, I will call on you. We can also call on Councilmember Murphy if need be, so whichever is better.
Thank you, Chair. I was going to defer to her first, because she has the First Amendment.
All right, I'll call on Councilmember Murphy.
A little early.
There you go.
All right, thank you so much. I would like to move my amendment, and it is Amendment 1. Let me give you a little background on the amendment. As we heard, other council members have said, life comes up. Things come up when just through the normal course of our term. We aren't full-time council members. We don't have dedicated staff to ourselves. And even with the most amount of notice, things get dropped into our lap that we have to prioritize, triage, and it's that constant revolving door that district council members are under. And so with kind of all of that in mind and my experience over the last couple of years here, this amendment is coming from a place where, if there needs to be kind of a relief valve of what happens in real life, that's where I'm drafting this from. I think the original policy we put in place was a great step, but then when you apply the realities of what a person can humanly accomplish in a day, we can't always get our to-do list done, and it's always growing. And so that's where I'm coming from with this amendment. And so what it does is it allows the community meeting to take place by the second reading, which we all know typically things come on first and substantive talks come after that. And then it also provides that relief valve for if a council member is conflicted out or not, we have a vacant seat, or if simply they have too much going on in their district to take on another level of community engagement and need some assistance, that's what this allows. And so with that, I would like to move my amendment. Happy to answer question.
Does legal counsel have anything to say on this one, or?
Oh, I did have something. I'm sorry. I did say that I would get it on the record that there were some questions about when all of this would take effect. And so if Mr. Jameson or legal counsel could address the effective date of this legislation in general, that was something I committed to getting that for everybody too.
The effective date of BL 2023-1992, if it were to pass second reading tomorrow night and third reading on the 18th, then it would be effective. I think the effective date is immediate upon passage. Yeah, it would take effect after its passage. So it would be effective pretty quickly.
Anything else, Councilmember Murphy? Or
No, just renew my motion.
Okay. Any discussion on this amendment, number 1? Councilmember Gamble.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question. There are other proposed amendments after this first amendment, and just clarification on which amendment, if this amendment passes, but the following amendment, which changes, it would actually change the bill, change that first amendment, which amendment would be precedent or would hold?
I'll defer to Council Director Darby or Mr. Jameson to answer that question.
It looks like amendment number 2 says specifically that it's amending section 1 as follows. I think it could be read that it adds section A4 back in. So A4 would be added back in addition to the amendments to section A.
Well, maybe it's the amendment number 3 that I might be referring to that does add another layer, but the layer is not the vice mayor making the decision. It would be 2/3 of the council making the decision for a public hearing.
That is I think that's in amendment number 2 as well.
So I guess my question is, because this first amendment changes the rule so that the vice mayor ultimately makes the decision, but the second amendment changes the rules so that 2/3 of the council makes the decision. If the first one passes first and the second one passes, then will the second one be the one that, does it cancel out the first one, I guess?
The second one, I do not believe would cancel out amendment number 1.
Okay.
I think it would add A4 back
then it would
in.
be both.
And what does A4 do?
So A4 going back in would be the 2/3 that would allow the possibility of the 2/3 vote to call a public hearing if certain circumstances were met, one of which is that the vice mayor declares that the district council member is unable or unwilling. So it would add that language back in. So both would be in there, and I don't think that they compete with one another.
So it would be both. It wouldn't be and or. It would have to determined by the vice mayor and 2/3.
No, I don't think that would be the case.
Okay.
Are you going to make anything?
I'm going to go ahead and call on Councilmember Mendez. I think we sort of just need to take all of these at one time at this moment, and then we'll take a motion on each of the four. But it's difficult to maybe understand the flow chart of how they all interact. But
Well,
as we're all learning about this,
I can make it really easy. If amendment number 1 passes, I'm not going to seek number 2. The motivation behind number 2 was that as originally submitted, it was sort of nonsensical about how we would decide when a district council member was unwilling or unable, and we would have to have a seance or something to figure out what that is. And my amendment number 2 was designed to stick in a specific mechanism that would trigger, and Councilmember Murphy's amendment 1 adds a specific mechanism. And so with the specific amendment in there, I'm not going to move number 2 because number 1 is resolved. And just to fast forward a little bit, number 3, the motivation, I will similarly not pursue if number 1 passes. The motivation there was, as originally submitted, there were 2 different notice and signage requirements depending on how a meeting got called, and I was just trying to make that uniform. And again, Councilmember Murphy's Amendment 1 handles that. So if that one is added, number 3 isn't really relevant. Number 4, we didn't really get to yet. I can talk about that at a different time.
at a different time. Okay. Well, thank you. That's helpful. So any other discussion on 1, 2, or 3? Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you, Chair. I'm actually, I will rise in opposition to this amendment. I don't think this is actually an issue of real life. I think this is an issue of people not liking a decision that the district council member made about the public hearing, and it's kind of changing the procedures and the legislative process to get the outcome that they want and rush things through. We've just seen this, like with the Titans, we went around the legislative process. I think that the district council member made that decision for a reason, and the reason is sound, and I don't think that we should be second guessing him because we want to try to force something through that on a time frame that he doesn't agree to. I think we need to get away from this idea that because we don't like the outcome or the potential outcome that we're just going to change the rules to get that outcome that we want. So I am opposed to this amendment, and I ask my colleagues to think and oppose it too. Thank you.
All right. I'll go. I saw Councilmember Murphy was next to speak. If others want to speak, raise your hand and I'll try to catch you. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up that I didn't want to mention the District 17 council member specifically in my first comments, but I will. I mean, I was basically citing what he said at our previous meetings, that, you know, when this was coming about, we had the Covenant shooting, we've had a variety of things this summer and this year, and while the councilwoman in front of me, you know, would like to speculate about my intentions or Councilman Sledge's intentions, ultimately, you know, as Councilman Mendez says, let's get the seances out of our speculations and out of our guesses on the floor here. I've stated my intention. I've stated where it's come from. And ultimately, at the end of the day, this is putting in place a process very similar to when I had my hip replacement surgery, when I went to Ireland, when my father had a stroke. Councilman Mendez and Council Lady Allen, for lack of a better word, babysat my district at the direction of the vice mayor. We've all had things come up up over the last 4 or 8 years, and we frequently have the vice mayor appoint an at-large member, someone else to help us out, and that's simply what my intention is here, is kind of formalizing that process. And I appreciate that Councilman Mendez is willing to pull his other amendments, mine clarifies, because I did feel like they did get a little bit more complicated. I feel like mine's pretty clean cut. Maybe I'm biased. I am biased, we'll admit it. And so with that, I just renew my motion and ask for your support.
Thank you. I saw a request to speak from Councilmember Sepulveda. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be voting against this amendment for a couple of reasons. I think it sets a bad precedent. I agree with Councilmember Murphy that life events do come up, but we're talking about something at a very different level, a very high level, and that's what deferrals are for. So if something does come up, we could defer legislation until we're able to address it, and I believe that we could do the same here. Right? If something were to come up, the district council member could defer it until they were able to pick it up again. I don't think that we need to be changing this rule that would go into effect right as we're going into having a new council body with a new administration. I think that at this time, it is too late to be discussing that, and that's why I'm going to be voting against this amendment.
Thank you. Councilmember Sepulveda, any other members wishing to speak on this amendment, I guess, or 1, 2, and 3, because I know we'll take up 4 later. Councilmember Van Rees, you're recognized.
Yes, I wanted to speak in favor of this amendment. I think it's in good faith. I know that there have been several times that I've asked Berkeley Allen to stand in for me when I was gone, and I think that there's going to be more and more situations with the growth of this council and how we're doing so many things at once, that there's going to be more and more opportunities for us to call upon others to help. And so it's going to get an affirmative vote for me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Van Rees. Any others on 1, 2, or 3? Councilmember Mendez.
Thanks. Thanks for letting me talk on this. Just to be clear, for 2 and 3, for purpose of the committee, I would appreciate a positive recommendation. If 1 doesn't pass, the inconsistencies about notices and signs and what triggers somebody else being appointed would still need to be taken care of. But I've committed and will repeat the commitment. If 1 passes tomorrow, I won't move 2 and 3.
Okay, thanks for that reminder. Councilmember Young. Hang on a second. There you are.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to kind of highlight that this section of the code that we're amending is something we put in place this term very early on in response to some proposals of selling property at the end of the prior term. And the intent of this council, I believe, was just to make sure that the administration could not go about, real estate deals in a council member's district without the council's involvement. And this is the first time that we've not had this rule section of the code implement, or we've not gone through a process yet for it. And so as we talk about the Speedway deal at the fairgrounds, this is the first time we're going through something that would trigger this section of the code. And so we're kind of finding some little kinks in it. And I think one of them is that, hey, I don't think it was the intent that passing the original legislation would give almost veto authority to a district council member over a project. I think it was to make sure that the district council member can engage the community on the real estate asset. And I would also add that, like others have said, it's very likely that this can be used for other situations too. I mean, we have conflicts all the times of different things. When I first came into office, I had just was in the process of building a new home, and that same builder apparently had, before I got into office, been eyeing some property, and they were talking about rezoning, and I asked the vice mayor to assign an at-large member, and that removed me from the process. If anything, this legislation, the intent here is just to make it easier for that district council member to be in less of a pressured position, and just to kind of clean up what I think is good legislation that we passed earlier in the term. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Young. I saw Councilmember Murphy and then Councilmember Sepulveda.
I guess, legal counsel or Mr. Jamison, this legislation does not prevent a district council member from deferring any of their legislation. Is that, or making motions to defer legislation dealing with projects, property, or things in their district. Is that correct?
It would not prevent that, no.
So the district council person could still make a motion to defer. There's also, I'm the sponsor of another rules change based on state law. We are, as you all know, and you see on the agenda, we're having public comment periods now all over the place, even though the state doesn't feel like we need to have public comment at their area. It's good for the goose should be good for the gander. But, you know, just because it's late in the term doesn't mean that we should operate under bad policy. Just because we didn't get it maybe right the first try doesn't mean that we shouldn't make it right now. We have the opportunity to make this policy and this rule more applicable and make it a better situation for us to operate under. And so that's what we are here to do. Whether I'm out of office next month, which I am, or whether we were going to have to serve another year, or whether this came up 4 years ago, 6 years ago, whenever, when we have the opportunity to make good policy, that's when we should do it. We shouldn't keep kicking the can and avoiding situations because we simply don't want to take hard votes. This is simply codifying legislation or policy that we kind of do informally already. And so with that, I'm going to renew my motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Murphy. I'll call on Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's important to remember that we set the timeline. We're not held to a specific timeline, and I understand what the council member is saying, but I also know that this project just got through the Fair Board not too long ago with changes. So they might have been dealing with it for a very long time, but the council is new to this. And the district council member has already set a community meeting. It's not like he's vetoing it. There's a community meeting set. That is how the process is set up. I'm going to vote against this amendment. We have time to go through this and look at it thoroughly. I also know that this rule was put in place because there were threats from a previous administration to potentially knock down the stadium. And so this rule was put into place. So what happens, not saying it's going to happen, what happens if an administration comes on board and decides, hey, we're gonna knock down the speedway? Wouldn't we be in a similar situation at that point as well? Again, you're right. It is the first time it's coming into place. I don't think it's wrong. I think the process is moving forward. There is a community meeting set. So I don't agree with the amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda. Councilmember Cash.
Thanks. Thanks for acknowledging me, since even though I'm not on the committee, but I want to understand something here. I mean, I agree with what members are saying about, like, if we decide we need help and we want to ask the vice mayor to appoint a at-large person to help us out and hold a meeting. But I think this amendment and this bill go farther than that, and I want to understand it a little better in the context of what we know this seems to be about in the current. At the current time, so Director Darby said that this bill would become effective pretty quickly, right, after it passes, correct? And so what I want to understand is this 90 days that's in here that's a trigger, and I think goes beyond just asking for help. Like, is that retroactive? Can we say, oh, in the past, before this bill passed, this stuff happened, it didn't happen within 90 days or did happen within 90 days. I mean, can we go back? Can we start if this is just going into effect in the near future, can we go backwards and look at that 90-day kind of clock? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you're trying to apply that particular section to the current the other, the current issue at hand, which is the speedway. And I don't think that that particular section would apply to this situation because a community meeting has been set for July 25th. It's been noticed, and it's been noticed by the district council member. If this were to pass, then it would allow the other legislation approving the lease to move forward on first reading. Because if this passes, it only needs to be effective before second reading. The community meeting needs to have occurred before second reading. The way the current code is written, that community meeting has to occur before first reading, which the July 25th meeting does not.
Thanks. That helps me with that part of it. I do have concerns that we're trying to make a broad rule to fit a certain situation, and I think this is moving forward too fast, and don't support messing with this in the middle of this. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Cash. Perhaps could I ask a clarifying question, maybe for my own edification, as well as for that of the viewing public? So, for Amendment 1, if it passes, if it's applied to the bill and it is, it still would not take effect until the bill as a whole passes on third reading. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And that could not happen until our July 18th meeting.
Yes.
And so then the other legislation, at what point could the other legislation be considered on first? Would that be at the July 18th meeting or the August 1st meeting?
I think that if items were moved around on the agenda, it could occur at the July 18 meeting.
Okay. But it would require a rule suspension?
Or a motion to move the items around.
Okay. All right. Well, that's helpful to me just to get that timeline clear. I'll continue discussion. This is our last item for planning and zoning. I know a lot of members are joining, and I'm trying to recognize others. My hope is that this helps because this is also before budget and finance. So my hope is that we're having most of our discussion right now. But I'll go ahead and recognize Councilmember Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for clarification, I introduced that original legislation, and it was prompted by another much smaller issue, though, where legislation was filed, and that was kind of the first the council members heard of it and didn't fully realize what we were dealing with until somewhere farther down the line. And it made me realize that it would be very helpful to ensure that the community and the council member are aware of whatever before legislation is filed. So just to clarify, that was the intent of the original bill, was to ensure that the community, and not just a public hearing, had the opportunity to have a back and forth and an exchange of information and an exchange of opinions, and possibly even, working out some compromises on the front end before it ever came to us. So I think that context is relevant in the discussion.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Allen, any other council members have anything before we will take a vote on each of these separately, but for Amendment 1 specifically, any other discussion on Amendment 1? So for Amendment number 1, all in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? No, we've got 2. Yeah, raising your hands is helpful, especially for that. So we have 2 against. 3, 4. Let me do it this way. So if you're in favor, raise your hands. If you're on planning and zoning and you're in favor, raise your hands. So 1, 2. I will join in favor on this one. Against, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 against and 0 not voting this time. That's for Amendment 1. For Amendment number 2, is there any additional discussion we feel is needed for Amendment 2? Is there, otherwise, can I, Councilmember Gamble?
I think we're just waiting on the vote for the previous, the vote we just took. What is the count?
The previous one for Amendment number 1 was 5 in favor, 4 against, and 0 not voting. So for Amendment number 2, is any other discussion needed on that one at this time? Vice Chair Rutherford, would you bring a motion on Councilmember Sepulveda? I'll call on you instead. Go ahead.
I move to defer for one meeting.
To defer?
Did we vote for it as amended?
Not yet. Yeah, not yet. So we just made a recommendation for Amendment 1, but we haven't gotten to the bill as amended yet. Having said that, would you like to move Amendment 2 for discussion?
I'll move Amendment 2.
Thank you, Councilmember Sepulveda. Is there a second? Any other discussion or explanation we feel is needed on this one? Okay, so all in favor of Amendment 2, if you're on P&Z, raise your hand. Councilmember Sepulveda, do you want to speak on it, or you're in favor of Amendment 2?
In favor.
You're in favor, okay. Councilmember Mendez, can I call you just to give a recap on that, just because I know we've... Okay, so we have 1 in favor. Any others in favor? 2 in favor? I will join in favor of Amendment 2, so that's 3 in favor. If you're against, please raise your hand. You've already voted in favor, so if you are not voting on Amendment number 2, please raise your hand. Is that 6? Wait, 3. For folks who are opposed to Amendment 2, we have 1. You're opposed to number 2. Okay. That gets us 9. So that for Amendment 2, recommendation is 3 that are in favor, 1 against, 5 not voting. Next is for Amendment number 3 by Councilmember Mendez. I'll go ahead and call on you for that.
As a reminder, this one I'll only move if Amendment 1 does not pass, but this is just very narrowly makes it be the same notice and signage requirements, however the community meeting comes to be called.
Okay.
So please recommend, but I won't move it if number 1 passes.
Thank you for that. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you move Amendment 3, at least for discussion?
Motion on the amendment.
All right. So any other second? We have a second. Any other discussion on Amendment 3? All right. So if you're in favor of Amendment number 3 and you're on P&Z, please raise your hand. I'll join that for 7. If you are opposed to Amendment 3, please raise your hand. If you are not voting on Amendment 3, please raise your hand. Okay. Did you get 7, 0, and 1? The recommendation on Amendment 3 is 7 in favor, 0 against, 2 not voting. And finally, we come to Amendment number 4 by Councilmember Mendez. Vice Chair Rutherford, would you move that one for discussion and then...
Motion on the amendment.
Thank you. Do we have a second on Amendment 4? All right. We have a second. Councilmember Mendez, go ahead.
So the entire discussion up till now has been about Section 1 of the ordinance. This discussion is about Section 2 of the ordinance. And I'll admit that I didn't really necessarily understand Section 2, but for lack of a better description, and maybe I'll be corrected, basically it provided a mechanism for, well, let me put it this way. Section 1 fixes the, as Councilmember Young and Councilmember Murphy were talking about, fixes the process generally. And then I understood Section 2 to be, yeah, but on the racetrack, here's a specific exemption if there's a public hearing prior to the effective date of the ordinance that satisfies a community meeting requirement. That's how it was, it reads in the original legislation. And this Amendment 4 would say that if you're gonna have something other than the community meeting, if you're gonna have a public hearing instead, public hearing instead of community meeting, it would have to be a public hearing by the council. So that's what Amendment 4 does. I'm honestly not sure whether Section 2 is still supposed to be there if Amendment 1 is added, or whether it's irrelevant language. If the language is no longer relevant, I would suggest that somebody do a late file to just delete Section 2 entirely from the ordinance. But that's what Amendment 4 does. If we're going to have something other than a community meeting and a public hearing is going to suffice instead, it's got to be a public hearing by the council is what the amendment does.
All right. Does the legal counsel or the administration have anything to add on Amendment 4? Okay, great. Any other discussion on Amendment 4? All right, seeing none, we have a motion and a second. If you are in favor of Amendment 4 and you're on P&Z, please raise your hands. I'll join it. So. All right, so our recommendation for Amendment 4 is 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. And so now, Councilmember Murphy, since you are the sponsor of Amendment, you are a sponsor at least of Amendment 1, if I could get you to make a motion on the bill as amended. There you are.
Move the bill as amended with 1 and 4.
With 1. All right, so we have a motion and a second. And now for discussion, Councilmember Sepulveda.
Move for 1 meeting deferral with a brief comment.
Go ahead.
I think if we're really going to be...
Do we have a second on the deferral motion? Okay, we have a second, so go ahead.
I think if we're really going to be looking at the merits of this change, then we need to do it without the pressure of this specific project that we're discussing. We know that the current council member is neither sick nor has anything coming up since he has set his community meeting. So if we really do want to discuss a change like this that will affect future projects going forward, then I think that we need to have the time to do it. And so I would ask for 1 meeting deferral.
Okay. Let me go down the line. Does that set precedent over all the discussion? But the discussion has to be on the deferral. Okay. So discussion has to be on the deferral. So I'll go to Councilmember Murphy next.
That's mine.
Go ahead.
All right, thanks. I'd like to table her motion.
1 moment, please. So it's between. Murphy just. All right, so the way that the interpretation of our legal counsel is that we will take this similar to the way we do in the council as a whole, which is that when you have a tabling motion that we have debate that is limited to the maker of the tabling motion and the opponent to the tabling motion, which would be Councilmember Murphy and Councilmember Sepulveda. So go ahead, Councilmember Murphy.
Thank you. If the reason to defer this is to have more time to discuss it, that is in direct kind of, I would argue that it's directly against the council lady's opposition to the legislation and the policy change. If the opponents to my amendment and to as this bill is amended just don't want to change the rule, then state that. Don't defer it and make the motion to indefinitely, but that wasn't the motion made. The motion was made to defer one meeting. Again, the council member, if this is about the racetrack and the fairgrounds, the council member can make the motion to defer. My amendment to this legislation is to make our policies that we do informally more formal and have better policy. We've realized that this policy, while we meant all good intentions with it, needed some tweaks. That's where I'm coming from. If y'all know me, if you know my family, I'm not a sports person, okay? Like, that's just not where I'm coming from on this. I'm a good policy person. I've been on rules for 8 years. I've been on planning for 8 years. Put those two together, and that's where my amendment is coming from today. I'm trying to make sure that there's good policy that I'm leaving behind when I leave this council. So please, let's table this motion. Let's make the hard decision and the hard vote that I said before. Vote it up or down. Don't play deferrals. If you say you don't want to play games with these amendments and motions and things, vote it down and let's vote today. Let's vote tomorrow night, whether we like it or not. If you don't like the motion, if you don't like the amendment, you don't like the bill as amended, just vote no on the bill. It's that easy, folks. But this is something the whole council needs to decide, not just our committee today. Let's get it on the floor and let's discuss this like grown-ups. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Murphy. I will now go to Councilmember Sepulveda.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I would like the people to know that I am a grown-up since I will be 30 on Friday, which I'm really excited about. I do appreciate my colleague. This amendment, this legislation is tied to the racetrack. And I want that to be clear. It is tied to the racetrack, and I think that is why it needs to be deferred. We are talking about an entire community that is going to be affected. I don't think that we need to stick to a specific timeline. We set our own timeline. If the community wants more time, then we will give them more time. If the district council member wants more time, we should give them more time. We talk about this when it comes to zoning issues. And we say, oh, the district council member knows their district better than anyone. With the project this big, there are multiple people, not just within the district, but outside the district that will be looking for either approval or disapproval. That is correct. But when we are talking about a community that has specific asks that were not addressed in the Fair Board recommendation, then I think we need to give it more time. And since this legislation is specifically tied to that, I think it needs to be deferred to give it more time. And so I would ask my colleagues to oppose the tabling motion. I understand that, you know, some of my colleagues will be leaving. I understand that we will have new colleagues. I understand that we will have a new administration that might have a different vision. And so with that, I would ask for your support in voting against the tabling motion.
All right, so we will now have a raising of hands if you are in support on P&Z, if you are in support of the tabling motion. I'm going to give everyone, so if you're in support of the tabling motion on P&Z, please raise your hands. If you are on P&Z and you are in opposition to the tabling motion, please raise your hand. I'll join that. So the tabling motion, we have 3 in favor, 6 against, 0 not voting. So now we return to debate on Councilmember Sepulveda's deferral motion, the 1 meeting deferral. And I will call on Councilmember Young. There you go.
Thank you, Chair. I will say, as the sponsor of this bill, I am vehemently opposed to a deferral. Councilmember Sepulveda made a point that is absolutely correct. Right now, this is tied to the Speedway deal and the timing of that. There is a public meeting that's been called by the district council member, and we need to honor that. And we need to move this legislation forward so that we can have that meeting and hear that community. The timing of the end of this term and what this section of the code currently says has put an inflated amount of power into the district councilman to be able to hold hostage this deal, and I don't think that was the intent. And I think the right thing to do, what we're elected to do, is to come here and look at things and discuss them and vet them and vote. What we are not sent here to do is to try and play games. And setting the hearing when it was set does not allow time for a full 3 readings of that legislation before the end of this term. I serve with some very smart people on this council, and that date was set, I'm sure, because of that. So in order to get around those games, we need to pass this so that we can fully vet and discuss this opportunity and allow that meeting to be useful so that we can do what we were elected to do, and that is our job, no matter if it's the end of the term. We are council members, and we have a duty until we are no longer in this office. Just because it is the height of election season does not mean we get to take a break. I sure hadn't been able to take a break. I was sleeping pretty late today because I was exhausted. And it's the hard work we sign up for. And so I strongly, strongly encourage you to vote no on the deferral. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilmember Young. I saw Councilmember Gamble. If I see other hands, I'll try to catch it, but go ahead.
Thank you. First, I ask for clarification from, I guess, Director Darby. If this deferral motion is approved today, does that impact our ability to discuss and debate legislation regarding the racetrack?
Yes, the deferral will be, if there's a 1 meeting deferral in committee, it's an automatic deferral at the council. And it will conceivably affect the discussion on the racetrack if the community meeting doesn't, if the legislation isn't changed so that when the community meeting is set counts towards getting the racetrack legislation on a calendar where it can be discussed. Okay. So right now, the community meeting has to be held before first reading, so we would be automatically deferring the racetrack legislation until the community meeting occurs.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. In my mind, this legislation is not just tied to the racetrack. It is legislation tied to how we conduct business, our rules, moving forward as a legislative body. So I'm not quite in support of deferring legislation that addresses rules and policy that could also impact additional legislation regarding an issue that we haven't discussed or vetted. Whereas if we decide after we discuss and vet the racetrack legislation, we can always defer that. Is that correct? Whether or not this legislation passes or not, we can always defer legislation on the racetrack if we're able to discuss it and vet. If this legislation doesn't pass and we're able to discuss and vet it, is that correct?
Yes, that would be an option for a motion.
Okay, so for those reasons, I do not support the deferral, and I think Councilmember Sepulveda is already an adult, and happy birthday, and she's doing a great job representing her district. However, I don't support this deferral because I feel that this is a separate issue. We can always defer the racetrack once we're just talking and discussing that. This is more about cleaning up legislation regarding our rules and procedures. And so for that reason, I would support moving forward without a deferral. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gamble. I've got 2 folks that I've seen hands to speak. Director Darby, I just want to make sure that I'm a kind of a flowchart person, so I want to make sure that I understand this. So if this legislation were to be deferred at this meeting. It would be taken up again on second reading on July 18th.
Yes.
There could be additional amendments that would be considered on second reading on July 18th.
Yes.
And if this were deferred on second reading to July 18th, how does that impact the community meeting that is already noticed for July 25th, I think it is?
Presumably, the community meeting will continue to be scheduled and be held on the 25th.
Okay.
No indication that that's being deferred.
But it would mean that the soccer agreement could not be considered on first on July 18th.
It's the Speedway lease.
That's right. Yeah,
But
sorry about that.
the way that the way the code is currently written, which is what we're talking about amending, the way the code is currently written, the lease agreement cannot be considered by the council on first reading, on first consideration, until a community meeting has occurred. So if a community meeting, if Section 230 is not amended, a community meeting occurring on the 25th will mean that the Speedway legislation cannot be considered on first reading until August 1st.
Got it. Thank you for that. Appreciate that clarification. And so next I have Councilmember Van Rees, and then I have Councilmember Parker, and then I'll look for other hands Welsh after Parker. Go ahead, Councilmember Van Rees.
Thank you. There are 9 members present on this committee, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think it's appropriate for 9 people to stop the entire body from this discussion. I think that we're going to obviously have a very vibrant discussion tomorrow night regarding this, and I want to get to that moment so that I can hear from everyone and not just those present. And for that reason, I don't think that the deferral is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Chair. If I could begin with asking Director Darby, this legislation, I don't know if it touches anything in Title 17 or it is here at planning. So will this be amendable on third reading or no?
I do not believe this is amendable on third reading.
Okay, so this would be the last opportunity. The second reading is the last opportunity.
Yes.
Okay. I know that there's a big contentious thing that this affects, and that folks are trying to find ways to make that happen before the end of the term. I sympathize with that. There's a lot that we all get kind of a backlog, I think, at the end of a term. What I'm concerned about is there have been situations, like, for example, before my term in my district, there was an effort to place a waste transfer facility in Cleveland Park, and that was really aggressively pushed by folks outside the district. And as a community, we were kind of able to work with our district council member and fend that off. I'm a little wary of, because of a particular situation that perhaps has a political remedy for the supporters of that proposal. The district council member who's been referenced here so many times today is term limited. So, one might spend their energy and effort talking to folks in that community about how they might want to elect someone who's very pro-racetrack. That might be a better use of time. I don't think, though, that I'm comfortable with where this is right now. If we're going to consider this rule change, I think that we're having some good discussion here. I would like us to keep the ability to amend this in the future rather than to close it off and say this is the rules going forward here today. So I am going to be supporting the deferral motion to give us more time, that if we are going to do something that impacts district council members' abilities to represent their districts, to protect their community from waste transfer station, whatever it might be, let's just not stay too myopically focused on the one proposal at hand that will be affected by this. We're going to all live with this next term. The city's going to live with it moving forward. So let's take the deferral and let's get it right.
Thank you, Councilmember Parker. And next is Councilmember Welsh.
Thank you, Chair. I too am going to vote in favor of the deferral motion. I feel like I've been hit by this bus before, this manufactured sense of urgency that we have to get things through. There's nothing that says that we have to pass this legislation before the end of this term. And for all of the reasons that my colleague C.M. Parker so eloquently outlined, I feel like it is in the best interest of the council, and actually to give the public the idea that we are just not once again getting pushed from all sides and making decisions without fully vetting things. It shows that we are acting in good faith, and we do want to know all the ramifications. I just feel like the sponsor just admitted this is it was introduced specifically because of the racetrack, and I feel like that's trying to do an end run around the entire process, and I just don't think that that is a place that we as a council should go. And as for and my colleague here, I don't believe he asked for this help. You know, we can ask him, but I don't believe he asked for this help. But to CM Van Reese's point, I mean, that's what the committee system is for. That's why we have committee meetings, and that's why we vet legislation in committee, so that committees can make recommendations to the full council. So I think it is appropriate for us to vote for a deferral on this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Welsh. And I will go ahead and recognize Councilmember Sledge as well. And Councilmember Sledge, just to catch you up, we have considered the 4 amendments. Hopefully you're aware of them. But number 1, co-sponsored by Councilmember Young and Councilmember Murphy, we did have a positive recommendation of 5 and 4. 5 in favor, 4 against. Amendments 2 and 3 by Amendment number 2 by Councilmember Mendez did not have a positive recommendation. Amendment 3 did, 7 in favor. Amendment number 4 did have unanimous P&Z, 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 abstentions. So then we're on to the bill as amended with 1 and 4. Councilmember Sepulveda brought a motion for a deferral. We had a tabling motion, which failed, so we're back on the deferral, and here we are. So just wanted to catch you up on that and welcome your input into this.
Thank you for that episode recap. So I was able to catch a little bit of the floor discussion, colleagues, and thank you for the discussion. It is Groundhog Day. I have stood at this desk for the past 8 years, and it used to be a different colleague who would bring legislation after legislation directly targeting this particular piece of property. I have lived in my neighborhood for 14 years. I think for 13 and a half of them, I have dealt in some way, shape, or form with this property. Just like in the first term, it's fairly obvious when legislation directly targets the fairgrounds. And that's what this does. We should not pretend it doesn't. It absolutely does. So then what do I do from that? I have a different council member who's directly targeting one of, if not the most impactful properties in the district that I represent. Members, I have tried as a district council member to take into consideration all the impacts, all the points of view, all the voices you want to see. Lots of different things occur at that property. And I have tried to thread a needle over the last several years in this service to say, what can be done? What's the art of the possible? What can I be for? What can I encourage you as members to be for? And over the years, time and again, I have brought legislation, and there has been investment on this property to say, what can we be for? On this particular piece, on this particular deal, I can't be for it. And I've been very clear about that. And so when this legislation is brought, I feel like folks should be equally clear that that's what this is about. And so as we're on a deferral motion here, what I ask for you is to give me, we're talking about time, with time to vet it and all this, give the people of the district that I represent the time to have that discussion. To Councilor Darby's point, no, the meeting on July 25th is not plan to be deferred, it will occur. And my hope is that when people come to that meeting on the 25th, they're going to know that the decision wasn't already made for them. And that's my concern with this legislation, is it makes a decision for the folks in my district. It says that the meeting that you're having isn't as consequential. It's not as important as it used to be because we went around it. We did something different. And members, to that end, if you're going to make a substantive and substantial rule change like this, a rule that we've had on the books for almost 3 years, if you're going to make a rule change like that, I would ask that you think about the impact that it has in your district. Because if a proposal comes to your district and you feel this is something that I can't get behind, or it's something that needs a lot more time than what is being quote unquote allocated or pressured, the amendment that's now on this bill sets a time limit. It sets a shot clock of 90 days. I want you to think about what happened in the 90 days since I first got contacted to say, we want you to have a community meeting. And that was from the administration, just to be very clear. In those 90 days, as I've spoken about on the floor, we had a school shooting. We had a state representative get kicked out of the legislature. We had to put that state representative back in the legislature. We had a $2+ billion stadium deal that we had to discuss and hold special meetings for. And then we had the state of Metro and the budget. That's about the busiest 90 days you could get. So if you're saying that you want a 90-day shot clock on this, I would ask you, who's to say what's going to happen in those 90 days when a proposal comes your way and you have to figure out what to do with it? Please vote for this deferral, support the one meeting deferral, whereas the chair has noted there can be other amendments put on, because the amendments that are on now, I think, are dangerous not only to the efforts that I'm trying to work through, but will be dangerous to any council member's efforts who's trying to have a full conversation about an enormously impactful proposal in their district. Thank you, Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Councilmember Sledge. I appreciate you coming and sharing your thoughts with us. Any other discussion on the deferral motion? All right, so if you're in planning and zoning, and if you are in favor of the deferral motion, please raise your hand.
2, 3.
If you are against the deferral motion in planning and zoning, please raise your hand. If you are not voting for whatever reason, no, I'm just kidding. We've got all 9 in. So the Planning and Zoning Committee's recommendation is 6 in favor of the deferral motion, 3 against, and 0 not voting. So, is there any other business before the Planning and Zoning Committee? Okay. With that, our Planning and Zoning Committee meeting is adjourned, and look forward to the next couple of committee meetings getting started. I appreciate everyone's time today. I know this is a really good discussion that is really important, and we'll continue. So thank you.